Hello guys. So in this lecture we will be discussing about certain algebraic properties of congruences. So in order to do that, let's start our journey from certain assumptions. What are the assumptions? The assumptions is n is a fixed integer which is greater than 1 and a comma b comma c comma d are integers. If this is my case, then there are certain statements. What are the statements? Statement number 1, a is congruent to a itself mod n. Statement number 2 gives us if a congruent to b mod n, then b is congruent to a mod n, and 3 is a congruent to b mod n, b congruent to c mod n, then a is congruent to c mod n, and look very closely that these two statements are precisely uh, reflexive, symmetric and transitive properties of equivalence. That means this congruence, this equivalence sign, if we think it as a relation between two integers, that say two integers are related in which way? They are congruent to each other mod n, or they are equivalent to each other mod n. In mod n world they are congruent or they are equivalent to each other. So if two numbers, two integers are related in this way, then this relation is actually reflexive, symmetric and transitive. So that will imply that this equivalence relation, this congruence relation is inducing a partition on Z. Each and every equivalence relations induce a partition on a given set. Which set? On which the relation is defined. The relation is actually a subset of some x cross x. We know that. So that means on that set x cross x, it on that set x, it induces a partition. So we will prove these things later on. Let's check some other algebraic notions. So the fourth one is if a congruent to b mod n and c congruent to d mod n, then what we can write? Then we can write that a plus c is congruent to b plus d mod n, and ac is congruent to bd mod n. So you can check one thing, that this congruent mod n, this merely like almost every, so that's why some people write it as a equal to b mod n, but that is also an abuse of notation, as we discussed in the previous section, previous lecture maybe. So the fifth thing is if a is congruent to b mod n, then a plus c is congruent to b plus c mod n, and ac is congruent to bc mod n. This gives me the next one, that is if a is congruent to b mod n, then a to the power k is congruent to b to the power k mod n. Now our goal is to prove these things. How to prove them? Let's start with our very first statement, that is a congruent to a mod n. We know this is a direct proof method. We know A congruent to A mod n if and only if A minus A is equal to some integer into n, but A minus A, but n divides A minus A, that is n divides 0, any number divides 0, this k should be 0 then in that case, then A is congruent to A mod n. This is a direct proof. Now what about the symmetric portion, the second statement? The second statement says that if A congruent to B mod n, then B congruent to A mod n. So we have A congruent to B mod n, that implies and implied by n into some k is equal to A minus B. That is the definition of congruence. So that implies and implied by n into minus k is equal to B minus A. That implies and implied by n into k dash is equal to B minus A. That implies and implied by B is congruent to A mod n. Now 3, the transitive property. That means we have A congruent to B mod n and B congruent to C mod n. Then we have to prove that A is congruent to C mod n. How to prove that? Simple. We have this statement, right? So we can write from here that n into k is equal to A minus B. This is my equation 1. And from here we can write B minus C, sorry, n into k prime is equal to B minus C. Now if you add them, n into k plus k prime, that gives me A minus C. That will give me A is congruent to C mod n. It is clear, right? Now the fourth one. Given A is congruent to B mod n and C is congruent to D mod n, then we can write that A plus C is congruent to B plus D. Let's see how. From A congruent to B mod n, what can we write? We can write n into k1 is equal to A minus B. And from C congruent to D mod n, we can write n into k2 is equal to C minus D. Now, what can we take? What can we tell about A plus B minus C minus D? Can we tell something? Sorry, I made a small mistake. A plus C is congruent to B plus D. So, what can we tell about A plus C minus B minus D? So, we can just arrange it A minus B plus C minus D, that is equal to n into k1 plus k2. That means n divides A plus C minus B plus D. This is whole bracketed. That will imply and will be implied by A plus C is congruent to B plus D mod n. Similarly, if we talk about AC is congruent to BD mod n or not, let's check. From here, we know that A minus B and C minus D both are integer multiples of n. Now think one thing. What can we tell about AC minus BD? We can write it as AC minus AD plus AD minus BD, and then we can take common from these two, C minus D, and we can take D common from these two, A minus B. Now think, C minus D is equal to what? N into K2. So we just put it like N into K2, A into N into K2, and D into what is A minus B? A minus B is N minus K1. N into K1. Now if you take N common, so you can see that it is AK2 plus DK1. That means AC minus BD is also a multiple of N, and that will lead us to the conclusion that AC is congruent to BD mod N. So far so good. Now for the fifth one, let's have an observation. What is the observation? From the first statement, we have C congruent to C mod N, right? And we have A is congruent to B mod N. What is my fifth statement? My fifth statement is A congruent to B, then A plus C is congruent to B plus C mod N, and AC is congruent to BC mod N. This is my fifth statement. So this is given that A is congruent to B mod N, and we know that C is congruent to C mod N. Now from the fourth one, we know what it follows from the fourth um, statement, that A plus C is congruent to B plus C mod N, and AC is congruent to BC mod N. That means if D is equal to C itself, then the fourth statement is in essential the fifth one itself. But you can do it in a more crude method, or maybe some elaborated method, some direct approach method. Suppose you don't know this fourth statement, then how do you solve this fifth one? So this is simple. So you will look at the term A plus C minus B minus C, that is equal to A minus B, that is equal to sum N into K1. That means A minus A plus C is congruent to B plus C mod N, and similarly AC minus BC will be simply C into A minus B, that is equal to C into N into K1, that is a multiple of N. Therefore AC is congruent to BC mod N. This is a direct approach. And from the fourth one itself, we are going to the sixth one. What is the sixth one? The sixth one is A congruent to B mod N implies A to the power K is congruent to B to the power K mod N. So from the fourth one, we know that if A congruent to B mod N is one of my congruences, and if C congruent to D mod N is another one, then we know that AC is congruent to BD mod N. So this is simple actually. Think like you have your second congruence as A congruent to B mod N itself, and you have third, fourth, and all the way up to K times A congruent to B mod N. So by induction, you can show that A to the power K is congruent to B to the power K mod N. This is a simple induction technique. You can always solve this thing. So it follows from the fourth statement itself. That means if A congruent to B mod N and C congruent to D mod N you have, then AC is congruent to BD mod N. So think of that C congruent to D mod N is nothing but the A congruent to B mod N itself. Then you can write A square is congruent to AC congruent to BD mod N. Now C is equal to A and D is equal to B. Therefore, it will be A square is congruent to B square mod N. And if you have another pair of this congruence, then you can, from these two, you can just figure out that it will be A cube is congruent to B cube mod N, and so on. Thus, the statements are proved. Now, a very important observation: we have A congruent to B mod n, that implies AC is congruent to BC mod n, but the other way round is not true. We can see certain results. Um, Suppose you have n is equal to 8 and C is equal to 2. So you have actually 9 is congruent to 1 mod 8 you have. So you can always find out that 18 is congruent to 2 mod 8, but the other way is not true always. You can think of an counter example. So this will be a homework. But there is a theorem. Let me discuss the theorem first. If CA is congruent to CB mod n, then A is congruent to B mod n by D. Now, what is D? D is the GCD of C comma n. Well, here is a notational discrimination. Some people write as D is equal to GCD of C comma n, but I prefer to write just as C comma n within the parenthesis, because D actually is a ideal that is being generated by the C and n. Anyway, that is a ring theoretic approach. We will discuss those things later on, that what is actually GCD, how to visualize GCD, and those things will come later on. So anyway, so let's prove this theorem. Proof. Just in case some of you wants to try this proof by your own, just pause the video right here and okay, fine. So now let's start the solution, the proof actually. So we have CA congruent to CB mod n. So what we can write from here? We can simply write that C into A minus B, that is equal to CA minus CB, that is some integer multiple of n, and k is some integer. We have D is equal to GCD of C comma n. Then there exist relatively prime numbers, that is there exist R comma S such that GCD of RS is equal to 1, such that, okay, satisfying D into R is equal to C and D into S is equal to N. So this is a very good observation. You may check that whenever I have two numbers C and N and I have their GCD, so whenever I will take these two numbers C by D and N by D, these two numbers are relatively prime. Always this will happen. So when these two values are substituted in the equation, which equation? This equation is 1. So what will happen? It will happen like this, that d into r into a minus b is equal to k into d into s. The d gets cancelled out, that is r a minus b is equal to k into s, right? So that means s divides r into a minus b, and note that s and r, as they are relatively prime, and s divides r into a minus b, then that will imply what? That s will simply divide a minus b, right? If you take two numbers and those two numbers are relatively prime, suppose, what can we say? Okay, let's talk about 60. And we can write it as 15 into 4. Remember that 2 divides 60, that means 2 divides 15 and 4. Now look very closely, that 15 and 2 are relatively prime to each other, then the only possible case is 4 is divisible by 2. So this observation is made that r and s are relatively prime, and s divides r into a minus b, then s divides a minus b, then a congruent to b mod s. Now what is my mod? What is my s? S is simply n by d. So writing like that, a is congruent to b mod n by d, we proved the lemma. Our claim was, if ca is congruent to cb mod n, then a congruent to b modulo n by d. I hope this is clear, and well, if it is clear, then we can move forward. So there is a corollary. Corollary is what? If ca is congruent to cb mod n, and c is relatively prime to n, then what can we write? Then we can write a is congruent to b mod n. Why? Because the proof is like that, ca is congruent to cb mod n, that will imply that a is congruent to b mod n by d, where d is the GCD of c and n. Now c and n are relatively prime to each other, they are co-prime to each other, so d has the value 1. That will give us the relation a congruent to b mod n. And there is some corollary too. Corollary 2 is, let p be a prime. Let p be a prime. If ca is congruent to cb mod p, and p does not divide c, then a is congruent to b mod p. Look very closely. If, why? Because if p does not divide c, then the only possible case is the GCD of p and c are only 1, right? Think about it. Let's check it. If p is not dividing c, then p and c are relatively prime to each other. co-prime to each other. If co-prime to each other, then from the corollary 1 we have what? A is congruent to B mod P, and we are done. So in this proof, this statement was actually the key statement. Now let's talk about some polynomial congruences. So we all know polynomials, right? Let Px be a polynomial of degree m. K runs from 0 to m, ck x to the power k. And for all k, ck belongs to integers. If a congruent to b mod n, then p of a is congruent to p of b mod n. Why this will happen? Think closely. P of a will be what? P of a will be k runs from 0 to m, ck a to the power k, and pb will be how much? That will be k is equal to 0 m ck b to the power k. Now we have what? A congruent to b mod n gives us what? A to the power k is congruent to b to the power k mod n, right? Then c to the power k, now if you add them from k is equal to 0 to m, ck a to the power k into ck is congruent to sum over k is equal to 0 to m ck into b to the power k mod n. Why? Because if a is congruent to b mod n and c is congruent to d mod n, then a plus c is congruent to b plus d, right? Now think about a to the power m is congruent to b to the power m is modulo n, and say cm, and here cm, and there is cn whole to the power a to the power n is congruent to c to the power n b to the power n mod n, and if you add them, they will just simply being added, right? And if you run the summation from 0 to m, that will be the congruence will be satisfied or be respected. So it is trivial. So this proves this lemma. Now here is a very important concept, that is a solution of a congruence. Solution of a congruence. If A is a solution of Px congruent to 0 mod n, that means what? That means if I write Pa, that will be exactly congruent to 0 mod n. If I write any other number, say P of k, that may be congruent to 1 or 2 or maybe some number n minus 1, but if I put a, it will be congruent to 0 mod n. Those numbers for which this congruence is going to be 0 are called the solution. That means if I think of this congruence, say Mm, well, x square congruent to 2 mod 3. So what are the solution of this congruence? Let's check. 0. 0 square is not congruent to 2. So in essence, what are we doing actually? We are doing actually x square minus 2 is a polynomial congruent to 0 mod 3. We are finding which x's are actually giving me these congruences. So x is equal to 0 will not work, x is equal to 1 will not work, and what about x is equal to 2? That will that work? I hope that will not work as well. So it has no solution actually. If there is no such integers like uh, say this is with 10, 10 square minus 2 is equal to 98, is congruent to 98, that is not congruent to 0 modulo 3. So A is a solution of Px congruent to 0 mod n means whenever I will put the value A in this polynomial Px, the solution, the polynomial will be a multiple of n. Okay. In essence, this is this. And if A congruent to B mod n, then B is also a solution of Px congruent to 0 mod n. Why? Because if A congruent to B mod n, then PA is congruent to PB mod n from our previous discussion, and PA is congruent to 0 as A is a solution of this congruence. Therefore, we can write by transitive property that PB is congruent to 0 mod n. Hence, B is also a solution of Px to the Px congruent to 0 mod n. So, on the next class, we will discuss about the divisibility criteria by 9 and 11. We all know that the divisibility criteria by 9 and 11, that how to check that 81 is divisible by 9 or not. We just add them. 8 plus 1 is equal to 9. 9 is divisible by 9, therefore it is divisible by 9. The 81 is divisible by 9. Similarly, whether uh, this 1 to 1, this number is divisible by 11, how to check? We know that 1 plus 1, this number we can add, and then we can subtract these two. So I will get the odd place numbers are 1 plus 1, we add them, and the even place number is subtracted. Then 1 plus 1 minus 2 is equal to 0. So this thing is divisible by 11, therefore 1 to 1 is divisible by 11. So let's check that 1331 is divisible by 11. How to check that? These odd place numbers are, odd place digits are 1 and 3. We add them, 1 plus 3, and we subtract the even placed 3 1, 3 plus 1. So it will give us 0. So 0 is divisible by 11. So 1331 is divisible by 11. But on the other hand, 1332, if I check that 3 plus 2, that is 3 plus 2, minus 1 plus 3, that is equal to 5, minus 4, that is equal to 1. So it is not equal to 0 or any multiple of 11. So 1332 is not a multiple of 11. This number is not a multiple of 11, therefore 1332 is not a multiple of 11. So we will know why this will happen, why this is happening actually, that why are we just calculating these sums and sum the subtractions and such things to determine the divisibility by 9 or 11. So we will discuss that thing in our next lecture. Till then, bye, thank you.